Hello, everybody, and welcome to Compliance Corner with John Hanson. My name is Kole Finley, and it is October 23rd, a Blue Friday, a very wet and dreary Blue Friday, but Blue Friday nonetheless. And I am here with my very good friend, John Hanson. John, happy Blue Friday to you.
You too, Cole.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am great. Thank you so much, my friend. Okay, so let's get right into it. We have a great topic for today. It's the Form 65A and 65B, 3 taboos in today's market. So if we look over here, we start saying the local real estate lawyers and Battle of the Barristers, I have a feeling you just went to Battle of the Barristers, warned of 3 mistakes agents are continuing to make. So here's the first one. It is. Form 65B should always state a rent amount even if the parties waive. Talk to us about it, John.
Okay. Yeah, so these lawyers, just so you know, were Lars Nesty, who many know, Annie Fitzsimmons, Chris Osborne, and Doug Tingvall, and Mike Spence. So these are all very well-known Northwest lawyers in the real estate arena. And they had so much to discuss and wisdom to share in that meeting last Friday. But what stood out to me was a couple of things here that I'm talking about, one of which is that when you are doing a post-close agreement, so you are doing the 65B, where the seller is going to remain in occupancy for, let's say, 3 days. And so you use the 65B, which is what you should be using. And then your thinking is, well, there's not going to be any rent. So in that little space where, where I put in the rent amount, I'll just put in 0. And they all pointed out and said, if you put in a 0 there, what it means is if that seller stays for 30 days or 60 days rather than 3 days, the amount of damages the new owner / buyer gets to go after is 0.
Okay.
So they were saying you've got to be really careful and make sure you put an amount in there. And then you can, in another area, or maybe even later on this form, but in another area, you can write that the buyer and seller agree that the first 3 days of rent shall be waived.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay.
So it's just a little thing, but it can mean a lot, obviously.
Wow. Yeah, that totally makes sense now, John. I like it. Okay, number 2 is never do a 65A pre-closing buyer occupancy. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I was kind of, well, not horribly surprised, but kind of surprised at how strong all 5 of those lawyers were about this issue. They were saying, do not ever allow early occupancy. And there were reasons for that, that they went, the legalities of it are that it just creates a nightmare for the seller once that buyer moves in there and has occupancy. The seller loses a whole lot of rights and control in the situation. And so their strong recommendation, again, every one of them, I mean, this was Battle of the Barristers, so they're supposed to kind of be arguing certain things, but this was one of those. They were just spot on. Every one of them said, no, don't allow it for any reason. Now, I, as a designated broker, can understand situations that come up where it's not really the buyer's fault and the buyer's all ready to move and the seller's all that kind of, the seller's out and all that stuff. And so the buyer's got to be in and we allow it. Well, oftentimes it doesn't cause a problem, but if there's a problem, it's going to be a huge legal problem, is my point. So we want to be really careful about when we represent the seller about allowing the buyer early occupancy.
Okay.
And we would use Form 65A if that were the case, but because that's the form that's there for us. But the lawyers weren't wild about the form either. But anyway.
Okay. All right. And then finally, we have to put in on or before or sooner for closing date is malpractice on our part, and if escrow insists they are wrong and engaged in the unlawful practice of law.
Mhm. Yeah, so so I know that it's really become, a fairly common thing to say on or before, or to say or sooner after the date we put in there. And the lawyer said, if a cop pulls you over and you say, well, everybody else was speeding too, you're still getting a ticket, and they said it's the same principle here. It doesn't matter that other agents are writing in on or before. It is, and they were really strong about this. They said it is malpractice. And so they gave a real live recent situation of a really expensive home, like a 3.8 or something $1 million home that this guy was buying, and he was mad because when it came down to where he was ready to close, but the other party was not, he was saying, hey, our contract says on or before, and this is before, so I'm closing. And it got into this big dispute, and it was basically, finally understood that by all parties that this was a contract to make a contract, which is an unenforceable provision, and so it meant nothing. And so this buyer guy was really mad and went after his own realtor for malpractice. So the lawyer sharing that story was the one who had to defend the realtor against their own client.
Oh, wow.
For malpractice. So we want to be careful not to use those words. And of course, the question was brought up, well, what about escrows? Escrows tell us we have to. And so they said, tell escrows. So you'd let the escrows know that they are engaged in the unauthorized practice of law by saying to you that you have to have that because it is an unenforceable provision. And also, by the way, TBD or to be decided is also an unenforceable provision. So you can't put that in there either. You have to have a date definite. And if prior to that date, the two parties come to an agreement, then that's fine. Then you can quickly write up an addendum that says that the closing date is to be this date, and they sign it, and they close and they're done.
Got it. All right, John. Well, thank you so much. This is actually, the neatest thing is Battle of the Barristers happens every single year, and it's some of the best real estate attorneys in our whole area. And this is the first year I haven't gone in about 10 years, and I missed it so much. I wish I could have gone. So I'm glad that you're bringing back some great stuff for us from them. That is really wonderful. Well, thank you so much, my friend. So I have one last question for you. Are the Seahawks going to win this weekend?
Of course.
Yes.
We're going undefeated this year.
Absolutely. Go Hawks. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yes, that's what we're doing. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. My good friend, you have a fantastic weekend too. And we'll see everybody next week.
Bye-bye.